Sometimes you just don't feel like diving into those massive open worlds with a gazillion quests and hours of gameplay. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just in the mood for a quick and awesome story that you can wrap up in one sitting. I mean, who wants to spend a whole day grinding away at a 50 or 100-hour game, right? So I've put together this list of the top 10 best story games you can breeze through in a single session. Let's check them out. House of Ashes. House of Ashes is an interactive drama and survival horror game. It plays like a horror movie or action movie, keeping you engaged as you go through the story, almost like watching a Netflix movie. The production quality is top-notch, with good-looking models and immersive environments. Essentially, it's a movie where the player chooses the character's actions with the potential for deadly outcomes from mistakes. Very well made, the best one of the series. This is actually one of my favorite horror games of all time. It's not the scariest, but it's incredibly fun, and I liked all of the characters. The choices were fair and had reasonable consequences. I enjoyed the game and look forward to future games in the series. Firewatch. This game is art in its own right, but as art goes, it's probably not for everyone. The gameplay revolves around story and dialogue with a touch of exploration. This also means there isn't much action. The focus is clearly on atmosphere and the protagonists. You play a character with a troubled past which you fled from and encounter a woman with a similar background. You try to make your way in a world on the brink of collapse, discussing what you see, do, and have experienced in your past. If you don't need to shoot everything that moves and enjoy a leisurely stroll, engaging conversations, and a different kind of story, you should grab this game for a relaxed but awesome evening you'll remember for a long time. What Remains of Edith Finch? What Remains of Edith Finch is a very emotional game where you, the player, control a character named Edith. She's been given a key that hides the secrets of her childhood home. As she delves deeper into the Finch house, she discovers the horrible yet poetic deaths of her grandpa, great-aunts and uncles, and even her own brother. She uncovers things that even her own mom wouldn't tell her. This game is beautiful yet disturbing. Many of the deaths are told by the victims themselves, and it's your job as the player to act out how each family member died through their eyes. This game isn't meant to be high-paced or action-based, it's more of an at-your-own-pace experience. I'd compare it to Gone Home. You don't even have to be good at video games to beat this game. All you really need to do is walk around, sometimes use the interact button, and in one flashback use an attack button, but that's it. Even if you've never played a video game in your life, find a way to play this game and do it. Titanfall 2. The Titanfall 2 single-player campaign is insanely good. From start to finish, it's one of the best FPS campaigns I've ever played. The combat and platforming are slick and fun, and practically every weapon is enjoyable to shoot. The Titan combat is surprisingly strategic and makes you feel like a total badass. The level design is inventive and intelligent. Different levels have different gimmicks that truly mix things up and play with the mechanics in smart ways. The sense of scale builds throughout the story is incredible, and by the end, what initially felt like a pretty standard plot becomes very involving. All of this is anchored by the strong character building of the relationship between the protagonist and his mech AI. BT is genuinely one of the best buddy characters in gaming. I heard good things about this game, and every expectation I had was completely blown away. A Way Out. I've never experienced anything quite like A Way Out. Just the beginning of the game is so unique in that, depending on which character you select, you'll have a very different intro experience than the person you're playing with, even though you're both in the game at the same time. There are so many good things to say about this game, but to keep it short, I'd say what this game does best is its follow-through. So many games nowadays try to have heavy thematic elements and create a deep experience, but what starts out promising eventually devolves into corny dialogue, memeable characters, and repetitive gameplay. A Way Out does none of this. From beginning to end, A Way Out keeps you on the edge of your seat and invested in these characters and their experience. It tells a cohesive, emotionally gripping story and at no point makes you think, I'm just playing a silly video game. In addition, the game isn't just a shooting or killing simulator like 99% of modern games. Even though you play as escaped convicts, the majority of the game is very relatable and humanizing as you can do fun and mundane things that breathe life into your characters. Things like arm wrestling competitions, playing Connect 4, shooting darts, or having a jam session on banjo and piano. Don't get me wrong, violent video games are fun, and this game has its share of violence, but when that's all a game is, it becomes shallow and empty. Games like this that allow your characters to simply enjoy life and appreciate the little things are the ones that stick out and allow you to form a connection to the characters and get invested. If you've ever wanted to have a true partner in crime experience with a friend or loved one, do not hesitate to get this game. Just play it in one sitting. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. This game may be short, but it will probably leave a great impression on you. All I'll really say is that it is an amazing case where the gameplay and controls are an essential part of the story itself. If this were a movie or a book, it would be mediocre at best, but it really uses the strengths of the medium, and for that, it becomes a much better, more emotional tale. I think that aspect of it deserves a lot of praise and can be a great example to show how video games are different from other media. This is an amazing experience because it really is like an interactive movie. A good movie. The world is so beautiful that whenever a bench is presented, you get excited because it lets your characters just sit and the camera pans out to this awesome view. The music is haunting and beautiful, putting you right into the game. The story makes you feel like you are the character in your childhood movie. The ending made me tear up for so many reasons. It being over is a big one. So if you have been thinking about getting this game or have it in your backlog, do yourself a favor and take 3 hours of your night to play through this cinematic experience. Don't take any breaks in between. After all, you wouldn't stop right in the middle of a movie, would you? Little hope. If you like Silent Hill games and movies, you will love this game. The thing I liked was that it felt more open world. It had different locations and you can miss clues if you want to do a quicker playthrough. You can find and use weapons, which I really enjoyed. There were more chances for conversation, so it feels like you were the character, and the fact that traits had such a big impact was cool. I did notice if your character was more fearful, he would run off and miss the QTE. I liked that a lot. The fact that you only had the X button for the QTE was nice. As a person who always had a problem with that in other games, it helped me out. I also loved the monsters' design. They were so creepy and disturbing. Personally, I really loved the ending. By the way, don't listen to the critics. This game was a 9 out of 10 for me, and you can easily finish it in 4 to 5 hours. Resident Evil 3. This game received a lot of harsh criticism that I think is really undeserved. I'd say it's easily on the same level as Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is better in the level design and puzzles department, but the main flaw of that game for me was the boss fights, which I found super frustrating. Resident Evil 3 is more focused on combat rather than exploration, so it doesn't reach the heights of 2 when it comes to the levels, but the boss fights are way more enjoyable in this one. And even on its own, I think Resident Evil 3 is a great survival horror game that strikes the perfect balance between cinematic set pieces and tense exploration, doing both very well. The thing I actually do criticize about it is the impossibility to backtrack to earlier areas to pick up some potentially missed objects, which is quite annoying, and I don't get why this thing exists since 2 didn't have this problem. But aside from that, the game is great and a lot of fun. I played it twice, and I'm planning to do a third playthrough on a harder difficulty. And this ties up with the biggest complaint about the game, which is its length. But that's a plus point for this video. Mafia Definitive Edition. Never got to play the original Mafia 1, but I did play Mafia 2 and consider myself a big fan of the Mafia series. This remake caught me by surprise. The amount of love and passion that went into it is insane. The cutscenes are top-notch. Not mad that they replaced actors like Tommy's original. I feel the new ones fit the theme way more. It's like I was playing the game version of The Godfather. The story is as follows. Tommy Angelo, a cab driver barely making ends meet, gets forced into a heist gone wrong when 2 mafiosos take him at gunpoint and order him to be their getaway driver. Tommy is an ace driver, getting them out without a scratch. And also, whoever modeled the cars in this game is a real artist. So gorgeous. I give this game a score of 10 out of 10. Everything is amazing. Great story, great music, deep and diverse gameplay. I thank the great people who worked on making this game. As Dusk Falls. I have to say, as someone who doesn't really enjoy visual novel type games, I absolutely loved the time I had with this. I really enjoyed the stylistic way it was developed, with the visual novel 2D characters against a perfectly realized 3D backdrop. You get the sense that the company had the ability to make the game a full 3D experience if they wanted to, but that wasn't what they were going for, and honestly, I'd really enjoy seeing more games done this way. It felt like a Detroit Become Human type game, but done in the style of a visual novel. Artistic style aside, I really enjoyed the story and the characters. Each character felt fully developed and very complex, which helped when making the many choices that you're presented with for our lead characters. The story was captivating. I really liked the jumps back and forth through time, a really great way to deliver the story. Bravo, Interior Night. Well everyone, that was all for this video. Goodbye.